Hi, I'm Jack Cumming, and I'm preparing these remarks on the election for Frau Berger, or as we call her in English, Miss Berger's German class in Germany. And I'm hoping to go slowly enough that you can follow my English, but I thought I'd record it outside here on my porch so that you could see the situation and what it's like to be in California. Behind me is the Pacific Ocean. You probably can't see it because of the way the video records, but we're across the street from the ocean, and I'm sitting outdoors. It's November 12th, and I've been asked to comment on the American election for you. I can well understand that you're having trouble getting your minds around what has happened in the United States in connection with the election. Ms. Berger has asked me to give you an American's assessment of what happened. Let me say at the outset that this is not what I would have chosen. Personally, I tend to favor private initiative over government programs, and to believe that entrepreneurs, in other words, private initiative, does more to advance our world than governments do. That would incline me to vote as a Republican, since the Republican Party in the United States is similar to the CDU or the CDU in Germany. Nevertheless, I was appalled by some of the language that I heard from Donald Trump during the election season. The result is that when it came time for me to vote, I stared at the ballot choices for some time, and then I realized that I really had to decide. I had not made up my mind until then, because ideologically I'd like to vote for the Republican Party and the Republican Party's candidate, but as a matter of personal character, I had trouble voting for Donald Trump, and I recognized that Hillary Clinton's character was somewhat flawed as well. But on balance, in that moment of truth, when I was staring at the ballot and had to make a choice, I decided to vote for Hillary Clinton, even though I was not enthusiastic about her. Part of what bothered me as well was that she only came to public awareness because her husband had become President of the United States. I believe that people should distinguish themselves in their own right before seeking to lead a nation. By the way, in case you're hearing a horn noise, that is train tracks. We live in a community that's situated between the ocean, which is behind me, and a village, which is on the other side, and there's a train station in the village from which you can go to anywhere in the United States, but we live in a very nice place. Anyway, you want to understand how a man like Donald Trump could be elected as President of the United States. First, you have to understand that in the United States, we don't form coalitions after the election. Instead, there is an informal process during the primary elections in the several states, in the course of which coalitions are formed to support a particular candidate. And I should say a word about that. The primaries, and the Germans refer to that as a Vorwahl, these are elections. Imagine that in the state of Baden-Württemberg, for example, only those people who had registered with the CDU party were allowed to vote for the candidate of that party, and they voted in a special election some months before the actual election to choose the chancellor. That's the way the system works in the United States. It's not been around for that long. It was devised because it was thought that it would make the selection of the president a more democratic selection process. So getting back to these coalitions that were formed, there were competition among the candidates for the Democratic nomination for the presidency before the election, and there were separate competitions for the candidates for the Republican nomination to become president. In this election, Bernie Sanders reflected what might be considered the more left-wing Bündnis 90, those interests in Germany, while several candidates, Carly Fiorona, Chris Christie and others, reflected what might be the FDP or the FDP in Germany. Thus, Bernie Sanders voters formed an informal, somewhat reluctant coalition with Hillary Clinton in the final election, while the economic conservatives formed a very reluctant coalition with Donald Trump. It's not clear exactly what values guide Donald Trump, and that is what is particularly troubling from this election. There is a large group of American workers who feel that they have been unheard and ignored. For the most part, they are industrial workers who find their jobs moving to China and India. They also resent the fact that in the more liberal politics in the United States, illegal immigrants have been given privileges that are denied to those who come here legally. Illegally, excuse me. No, legally. So illegal immigrants are given privileges that people who come legally do not have. That means that we favor people who break the law to come to the United States over those who obey the law and come here as you might. Let's say you wanted to study at an American university, you would likely come as a legal person to attend that university. As it turns out, you would have to pay more, and I'll come to that in just a second, to attend a university in the United States since you came legally than you would if you came illegally. For instance, if a foreign student wants to study at the University of California, the foreign student has to pay the full out-of-state tuition, which is considerable. However, illegal immigrants who graduate from a California high school and go on to the University of California pay the much lower resident tuition. To make illegal status politically acceptable, illegal immigrants are called undocumented. I guess in German you'd say they're ohne Papieren, or Papiere. So they just lack the documents, as though that was all there was to it if you came here in violation of the law. Continuing with our student example, the tuition at the University of California is $12,192 a year for illegal immigrants, while those who come here legally have to pay $35,070. Picture that now. If you were to come to California legally to study, say at the University of California, Berkeley, you would have to pay roughly 3 times as much as a person who simply came across the border from Mexico at night and entered the country. As you would say in Germany, you get an advantage if you come by Nacht und Nebel than if you just come by the regular way. You can see why workers would feel that is unfair. They believe that toleration for illegal immigrants exposes them to competition in the workplace from undocumented workers. And they believe that's unjustified. Those workers voted for Donald Trump. The matter of illegal immigration should not be underestimated. It is a cause that is supported by many liberal interests, including journalists, academic professors, some liberal business managers, and people who think of themselves as intellectually superior in general. In Germany, these might be the people who would read Die Zeit or subscribe to the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Ordinary working people and many farmers feel that these intellectuals condescend to them. President Obama was considered to be catering to this intellectual elite, and that brought about some resentment toward Obama and his policies. This forgotten group of workers and farmers thought that Hillary Clinton would continue the same policies that the workers felt were disadvantaging them. They resented the new immigrants. You have a similar phenomenon in Germany with people who resent the new immigrants from Syria. These same people who voted for Donald Trump also resented the new trade agreements, which they felt were favoring foreign workers over American workers. You have a similar phenomenon in Germany with people who oppose the CETA agreement, the agreement which is formally known as the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. Thus, the election of Donald Trump reflects a new coalition of working class people and rural people, rural meaning farmers, people who live in the outlying areas. The opposite of rural is urban. So there's a coalition between workers and farmers against the urban elites of television and the universities. What this will mean for the United States and for the world in the days to come is hard to foresee. We have a similar challenge with the Brexit vote in Great Britain. That's the vote by which Britain voted to leave the European Union and just become England instead of the Great Britain that it once was. There are some Germans who think that it was a mistake for Germany to join the European Union. There are some Germans who think that it was a mistake for Germany to adopt the euro instead of the Deutschmark. Euro is the way we say euro. These are the same forces that brought Donald Trump to power. Now that he is there, we can only wait to see what kind of people he will appoint to the governmental bureaucracy and how he will lead the nation forward, both domestically and in world affairs. Finally, I think I've explained as best I can what happened here. Of course, nobody has all the answers. All we know is that the popular vote was about 50-50. 59 million people voted for Hillary Clinton. 59 million people voted for Donald Trump. But the rural states, the country states, the landed states, the states that are more like Baden-Württemberg, they get a little extra edge in this electoral college, and that favored Donald Trump, which is why Donald Trump today is the president. Or president-elect. He isn't president yet. If you'd like to Skype or talk with me, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. You can write me in German if you prefer. I can do reasonably well in German if I have a chance to sort of collect my mind and begin to think in German. So you can email me at jackcumming@aol.com. That's Jack, J-A-C-K, Cumming, C-U-M-M-I-N-G, all written together as one word, jackcumming@aol.com. And I'd be happy to answer all your questions. You're very fortunate to have Frau Berger as your teacher. Thank you.